Chapter 2. Welcome to Beacon Pines. For many years, this valley had been a small mining outpost. It wasn't until Sharper Valentine built his fertilizer company that Beacon Pines was established. Over the next 30 years, the town had grown and prospered until the foul harvest and his sudden death. In the 6 years since, everyone was simply trying to get by. Was the CEO of Perennial Harvest Company. He had become a fixture around town over the past few years. After the failing of Valentine fertilizer, the town was hungry to welcome a new source of employment. Mayor Augustus Valentine was not busy. Flustered, Gus instinctively loosened his tie. He pulled a pen from the pocket of his sweater vest and began to frantically jot something down on a clipboard. Pete stopped scribbling and glanced up from the clipboard. Mr. Sinclair continued snoring and lifted one eyelid just enough to see who it was, a tactic he often used to avoid undesirable conversation. Whenever Luca saw his dad's chair by the pond, it reminded him of the days they'd pack up a couple of sandwiches and fish until sundown. Luca opened the tackle box and picked the perfect bait. Luca gently baited a feather onto the hook. Good for skimming the surface. Luca gently baited a feather onto the hook. Good for skimming the surface. Luca tied a shoestring to the hook. What fish could resist a nice shoestring? Luca gently baited a feather onto the hook. Good for skimming the surface. Luca tied a shoestring to the... What fish could resist a nice... Luca gently baited a feather onto the hook. Good for skimming the surface. The boys had a good thing going. As long as they kept old Jeff happy, they had an endless source of precious materials to add to the treehouse. After Luca's father had passed, Rolo became obsessed with them building their own Hank atomic star scraper. It was some time before Luca realized it was Rolo's way of keeping him occupied. On certain nights, when the clouds were just right, the boys could tune into strange patterns of static. Rolo thinks it's aliens. He always thinks it's aliens. Luca's winter coat decommissioned for the summer. With the cold holding out longer than usual, he reconsidered its usefulness. The road leading to Beacon Pines was long and a sort of natural barrier for the impatient. Luca could see the morning regulars nestled in their booths at the early bean. Miss Hatch could often be found near the fountain, too absorbed in a book to be distracted. Holden Wilder ran the local paper of record, the Beacon. Oh, right. Rendez-vous with Roxy. This is an important turning point. The first time where your charms will change the course of fate. And currently, we only have one suitable charm at our disposal. Have no fear, we can always return later using the Chronicle once we find more charms. Well, now I'm just rambling. Where were we? Rolo froze as Roxy took a step toward him, cracking her knuckles. Luca knew he had one chance to save his friend from being dragged home. In the past, he found the best way to deal with an enraged Roxy was to be a little chill. A bit much, if you ask me. Luca knew that if he gave up now, he'd never hear the end of it from Rolo. Jeff's hardware closed down about a year ago. The effects of the foul harvest stretched wide. When there are no crops in the field, tractors don't need fixing. A promise Gran regretted the second it was made. The phone booth was brand new, part of Perennial Harvest's Beacon Pines Reborn initiative. It didn't see much use. After the foul harvest destroyed their wealth and reputation, the Valentines shuttered off their estate from the rest of town. The Valentine mansion loomed over every other building in town, both figuratively and literally. The path led into a small hollow at the edge of Weepwood. The fence thrummed with a gentle electric buzz. Luca often asked himself what Rolo would do, so that he could rule out that option. As sparks flew from the fence, the light atop that section shut off. 2 bulbs remained. One more to go. The fence's buzzing gave way to silence. Every kid in town knew the old Valentine fertilizer building. Long abandoned, the warehouse once served as the industrial heart of Beacon Pines. Now, it stood only as a reminder of things left behind. The dormant building showed strange signs of life. There was only one way to find out. The hose emitted a subtle sound. It was actively draining some kind of liquid. The water looked almost diseased. It flowed slowly into the woods. Luca thought he heard faint sounds coming from the other side of the door. He pressed his ear against the cold metal to hear better. The sound of footsteps grew louder. The heavy steel door knocked Luca to the ground. Disoriented, he looked up to see an imposing figure silhouetted in a green glow. It lunged toward him. He tried to scramble away, but felt a gloved hand latch onto his ankle. Luca watched his fingernails leave trails in the dirt as the hand slowly dragged him back through the door, into the lab, into the green light. This is a story about change. It was far from the sort of change Luca imagined for himself. But change is, after all, a dangerous animal. The end? I probably should have warned you about this. There are many paths that our story can take. Most will end in tragedy. But don't let that discourage you. We will find the ending that this story deserves. I just know it. From here on out, a charm will have a check mark when it's been used to its full potential at a given turning point. Now, let's try something different. had passed, he found the best way to deal with an enraged Roxy was to be a little shit. Solomon Valentine, current ward of and future successor to the Valentine fortune, huffed as he brushed off his pants. Solomon trifled a gesture toward the approaching heiress Valentine. As the glowing windows of the old warehouse came into view, Rolo began to bounce excitedly. The boy sat petrified under the weight of the bag. Rolo felt around at the large sack which burdened them. He snapped off a tag from just within a small zipper opening in the bag. Rolo held the badge up to a faint shaft of light within the dumpster. Lucas sat in the dark, tracking the sound of Rolo's footsteps as he ran. 1, 2, 3, He pressed his ear to the dumpster wall, straining to hear Rolo's footsteps as they faded away. 15, 16, 17. He tried not to think about the contents of the dumpster as he counted. 35, 36, 37. The thick stench made it hard to breathe. Screw it, that's long enough. Luca carefully lifted the lid and peered out. Nothing. No sign of Rolo. No sign of the man in the yellow suit. Time to haul ass. Luca clambered from the dumpster, stumbling to his knees. He was up like a shot and running, sprinting toward home as fast as he could. Beacon Pines flew by, blurred by the tears that welled up in his eyes. He wouldn't remember getting home at all that night. Throwing his front door open, storming up the stairs to his room and surrendering to sleep almost as abruptly as he hit his pillow. Chapter 3.